Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've really pulled apart a detailed collection of analyses, and these are all focused on that interesting convergence point, European football and the critical decisions happening with the U.S. men's national team. Yeah, our mission really is to filter all this material. It covers the big leagues, recent results, player metrics, all of that to give you the absolute key insights. We're looking at performance, form, and maybe the drama around the squad choices facing USMNT coach Mauricio Pochettino. It's about the why behind the roster, not just the list of names.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here is how the sources treat the European club scene. It's not just background noise. It's framed as like the main proving ground for the national team. The analysis is super focused. It looks at how the intense pressure, particularly in the English Premier League and the Champions League, really dictates who's considered in form. Yeah, enough for a call-up. So we'll be talking tactical data, player development, and what seems to be a new, maybe higher performance bar that Pochettino is setting.
Okay, so let's start right there then. The battlefield, as you might call it. When these sources discuss the recent European context, what are the biggest things, most significant developments impacting U.S. players right now?
Well, the discussion immediately goes to fixture congestion and the fatigue curve that comes with it. For U.S. players at those, top four EPL clubs, the ones fighting for European spots, the sources highlight that consistency is just being hammered week after week. There's specific mention of clubs struggling with rotation because they're juggling the domestic league and the Champions League.
That makes total sense. I mean, the sheer density of games just raises the stakes, doesn't it? One slip-up costs you points or even progression. But did the sources point to any, specific team results or maybe broader trends that are fundamentally shifting things for American players over there?
Oh, absolutely. One key trend they really emphasize is the increasing tactical demand on midfielders, especially in the top leagues. We're seeing this huge focus on players who can, operate under intense pressing, but still maintain really high accuracy with their progressive passing. Actually, there was one example, a recent Champions League game where two USMNT hopefuls were on opposing teams, and the difference in their successful pressures applied, that was cited as a major metric, like a direct comparison of their current fitness and tactical discipline. So it's not just about scoring goals anymore. It's about tactical endurance, really.
Right. That's exactly the kind of granular detail we want from a deep dive. Okay. So let's shift focus now to the individuals, the ones who are actually thriving in this high-pressure cooker. The sources, they don't hold back celebrating players in, quote, excellent club form. Who are the standouts getting that specific praise?
Well, the names that really jump off the page are Christian Pulisic and Tanner Tessman. But it's more than just, they're playing well. The texts analyze their tactical evolution. For Pulisic, the focus is on his kind of renewed sharpness as a wide forward. They note a really significant uptick in his goal contributions per 90 minutes. That metric had lagged a bit previously.
Okay, what's the specific measure there? If we're talking data, what are the sources actually saying about Pulisic that's so impressive right now?
Well, he's been singled out as the key difference maker in tight league matches, and that's apparently down to his successful take-on rate. It's up nearly 20% compared to just 6 months ago. The analysis suggests he's playing with fewer injury worries, maybe greater tactical freedom too, which lets him bypass those stubborn low blocks much more consistently. And that level of influence in a top 5 European league, that's precisely the standard Pochettino seems to be demanding. But maybe the more instructive example is Tessman. He's operating a bit below that top-tier Champions League radar, but his transformation has been, profound. The sources point specifically to his shift. He used to be more box-to-box, now he's playing as a deep-lying playmaker, barista. And his successful long-pass completion rate in recent games is noted as exceptionally high, which is, a vital tactical weapon for breaking lines against defensive teams.
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction. It shows the coach isn't just looking at the glamour leagues like the EPL. He's looking for the right type of performance, the right profile. So how do these individual successes, Pulisic's elite attacking numbers, Tessman's tactical control in midfield, how do they actually influence the perception of American talent across Europe?
Well, when players like Pulisic deliver those kinds of numbers on the biggest stages, it validates the whole market for American players, right? It's a statement about quality and consistency. And for Tessman, his success shows that U.S. players can absolutely master these sophisticated, tactically demanding roles, like the deep-lying playmaker. It shifts the narrative. It moves beyond just American athletes to American footballers who can handle the intellectual side of the European game. Their form is basically setting a new, higher benchmark for what scouts and coaches expect from U.S. internationals now.
Okay, and this brings us right to the core conflict that the texts really dig into. You've got these guys hitting peak form, influencing the continental scene, and then you have the, let's call it drama, surrounding Coach Pochettino's selection philosophy. The sources spend a lot of time on what they term high-profile omissions.
Yeah, this is where the analysis really gets granular. Pochettino's selections are seen as controversial, precisely because they seem to defy past reputation or status. The sources specifically name two really prominent players whose absence caused the most shockwaves.
And those names are Weston, McKennie and Antonee Robinson. I mean, these are players who historically have been absolute foundations for the USMNT bedrock players. What's the rationale, according to these texts, behind leaving out players of that stature?
Well, the analysis suggests that, while yes, both are mainstays at their clubs, the recent club performance just didn't align with the very specific tactical output Pochettino demands. For McKennie, the source material noted, a dip in his progressive carrying metrics, things like carrying the ball forward, and critically, his perceived tactical indecision in those really high-tempo transition moments, quick turnovers. So the conclusion was, look, while he offers utility, he wasn't providing that peak influential output that, say, Pulisic or Tessman currently are.
Wow, that's clinical. Almost ruthless, you could say. It sounds less about loyalty and much more about a data-driven fit for a system. Okay, what about Antonee Robinson? He's a high-energy defender. His club form is generally seen as pretty solid.
Robinson's omission, according to these sources, it hinges on a couple of things. Defensive lapse frequency in high-stakes matches, apparently, and also a lack of the required volume and progressive passing from deep positions. So, while he definitely provides pace and those overlapping runs we know him for, the sources indicate Pochettino is looking for a fullback who is maybe less prone to error under pressure and maintains a higher pass completion rate during the build-up phase. It's a requirement that perhaps other, maybe younger options showing peak form right now and less spotlighted roles might be meeting better.
Okay, so the juxtaposition isn't just, Pulisic good, McKennie bad. It's more nuanced. It's that Pulisic and Tessman are delivering exactly the specialized, measurable output Pochettino needs for his system right now. Whereas McKennie and Robinson, despite their status, are showing slight tactical shortcomings or maybe inconsistent output relative to this new, seemingly elevated standard.
Precisely. And that shift is the central takeaway here. The texts are highlighting a really comprehensive change in selection criteria. The analysis confirms that Pochettino seems to be prioritizing a very rigid adherence to current, elite, quantifiable club form that matches his specific tactical structure over historical service or past reputation. The key knowledge gain for you, the listener, is understanding that this selection process looks like it's becoming entirely data-driven, and it's linked directly to the most critical performance metrics in top European leagues.
Right, which makes that whole European contest we talked about earlier, the pressure of the EPL, the Champions League, not just background info, but the actual proving ground. The entire continental football scene is essentially one continuous audition for the USMNT now.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to put it. When a coach makes such high-profile omissions, it sends an undeniable message. It tells every single player in the pool, your club performance has to be absolutely at its peak, right now, or you are vulnerable. The perceived tactical inconsistencies of McKennie and Robinson, apparently laid bare by the data in these sources, they provide the hard evidence. This looks like a system change, not just a personal preference. And this new standard, effectively set by the performances of players like Pulisic and Tessman, it influences how the whole world views the expected level of American soccer.
It's a really essential cycle to grasp. Okay, so we've covered the major European leagues, we've celebrated the specialized success of players hitting peak form, and maybe most importantly, we've analyzed the data-driven thinking behind those surprising omissions of really established names. This deep dive hopefully has given you a pretty comprehensive overview of how Pochettino's philosophy, as documented in these texts, seems to be fundamentally reshaping the criteria for the USMNT. So based on all this detailed breakdown, the elevation of specialized talent like Tessman and Pulisic, combined with the clinical omission of mainstays like McKennie and Robinson, you really have to ask yourself this. How significantly is Pochettino's kind of cold adherence to peak current club performance changing the very definition of what it means to be a USMNT player? And what long-term impact will this data-first approach actually have on the team's identity going forward? That's the dynamic, I think, that will continue to shape American soccer's narrative in Europe.